Yo, what's up, y'all? This is me, DMC, in the place to be, the greatest MC in history. There will never be an MC greater than me. And right about now, the only place for you to be is with your one and only Madhousetv.
You are the man.
Good evening and welcome to Passion for Life with Dee and Friends. And I'm Dee.
And my name is Chella from Madhousetv, just standing in the gap for you.
Ah, thank you.
You're quite welcome.
Yes, my regular co-host has gone away. She's flown the coop. So Chella decided to come out and host with me. And I really, truly appreciate it.
Well, anytime, Dee.
Oh, my goodness.
Anytime.
And we are discussing one of your passions. So
yes,
that's why I especially made sure you came out
and
today.
I appreciate you inviting me.
Yeah, definitely. So we're going to be talking about HIV tonight, and then we're also going to probably throw in a few other little viruses that are going on right now. Maybe a little bit of Ebola and maybe a enterovirus or so. But we're not sure where we're going to flow to.
Okay.
But you know, we'll see what it takes us to, you know. So got some friends here, you know, and we're going to be sharing a whole lot of information as we usually do. And well, we know what your passion is. If you want to share a little bit more, you're welcome to do that again. Since you haven't been here in quite a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's good. You're going to share? No?
Sure. Back in 1988, my brother passed away from HIV/AIDS, and prior to his death, he was visiting the family, and he had the look, you know, the gaunt look, and my mother, being in the medical field, asked him, "Do you have that thing called HIV?" And he said no, he was in denial. He didn't want to tell the family. And a year later, he died.
Right.
It was a quick death. He deteriorated quite rapidly. And when I learned of his death, I immediately wanted to, you know, make a difference.
Right.
And I knew that where I came from, there weren't that many positive, black, strong, Latina, female role models to share with our young people coming up. And so I immediately looked for some opportunities for me to do that kind of work. And I was so fortunate to be hired over the phone by Dr. Brian Harper, who was director of the HIV Bureau in Nassau County Department of Health in Nassau. And he wanted someone that had a lot of fire in their bones, that had personality, that was bilingual, that could, you know, make this happen and do HIV prevention work in all the schools across Nassau County. And I didn't really know what I was getting into. I just wanted to be in the mix. And so I said, I'll do it. And so he hired me over the phone. And it was just such a great experience to be able to go to schools as far as young as kindergartners and teach prevention. You know, how to keep your hands clean and how to not touch your classmates' blood if there's any emergency going on, get the nurse or the teacher, up to college level. And I remember one day going to Nassau Community College, and I did an experiment.
Really?
Because I was very good at doing condom demonstrations and teaching women how to put condoms on without using their hands, which is called cheeking, which I'll be more than happy to show you tonight if you like.
Okay, sure. You have any condoms? I'm sure.
We'll find one. Somebody in the studio that has to have one. But I remember going to Hofstra University, and I asked 100 male sexually active men if they knew how to put a condom on, and out of 100, they all said yes. And so I had them demonstrate on my wooden penis that I would carry around with me.
Okay.
And out of 100, only 38 were able to put it on properly.
Really?
So that told me immediately that all the women that they were laying down with were
potentially
or at risk.
Yeah.
And it's sad because it's not only that they didn't know how to do it, but men have this air about them that they know it all.
Yeah.
And so when I showed them how to do it properly, they were like, OMG. You know, they go through the old shit syndrome. And it just taught me a lot, and I shared that experience with a lot of the young girls that I spoke with.
Right.
And that, you know, I taught them how to empower themselves, protect themselves, and thank God the female condom came out so that they could protect themselves. They didn't have they didn't have to rely on the male organ.
Right.
So throughout the years, I just was so grateful to be able to teach young people, old people about the virus. You know, after my brother died, I learned that so many more of my family members were infected. My cousins, and they were, you know, drug users, prostitutes, what have you, and they just had to pay the price the hard way. But those are years that I cherish. I continue to do HIV prevention work. I'm hired as a consultant all over to do trainings, teachings with medical staff, with students, teachers, faculty. And I got to tell you that since I've been doing the work since 1988, the level of denial is still the same.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Because it's such a stigma, unfortunately, and it shouldn't be. It's just if people were educated and they knew that, and they got prevention. Because even if your brother probably had gotten medication and he admitted to himself and to the family that he needed help, he probably would have been here still. You know, so I do see what you're talking about, because people are in still denial, so that if they realize what they need to do and just go for it and do it, and it make a big difference in their life. But it's so cool that you're making such a big difference.
I try.
You are.
You know, I did a presentation at the Valley Stream PTA back in 1998. I'll never forget this night. And about 5 minutes into my presentation, a woman in the back says, "We don't need to hear all of this stuff about HIV. We're all married." And I said, "Dear heart, that's exactly why you need to hear about it." So she listened. It was painful for her to sit through the presentation. And when it was over, she came up to me and asked me, pulled me aside and asked me, she shared with me some of the signs that she saw in her husband. And she started crying. And to this day, I still communicate with this woman.
Really?
As a result, she was not infected with the virus, but her husband was cheating on her. She did contract an STD. And she's just so grateful that I did that presentation, because denial is real. It's not a river.
No.
It's very real.
It's real.
And I always tell people, take your hand and rub your chest and tell me how that feels. It feels very comforting. It feels good. That's what denial feels like.
Understand that. Wow. That's real serious, to say the least. Well, we have a couple more guests. And I just want to have everybody introduce themselves. Hello. Oh, friends, because these are friends, of course.
Of these.
Yes. Hello.
Hello.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good. Introduce yourself, please.
My name is Lee Thorpe Jr.
Okay, welcome, and thank you for coming out today.
Thank you.
And usually we ask you about your passion, okay? So what's your passion for life?
I like to educate people.
Okay, cool. Well, I know you came out on a request of your cousin.
Yes.
Yes, I really, truly appreciate that.
No problem.
And we also want you to come out because I know that you've been working with the HIV community.
Yes.
And so for a couple of years now.
About 2 years, yeah.
2 years?
I used to do HIV testing before, and I actually just, on Monday, I will be starting a job as a healthcare educator, doing HIV testing and education about HIV, STIs, and PrEP and PEP.
Okay, so you all got a whole lot in common.
Yes. I also have a family member that's affected by HIV and AIDS as well. So
Okay.
I know I know how you feel.
Yeah, yeah. But he's educated now, and he's willing to, or no?
Not so much,
Not
but.
so much. Okay. Well, well, hopefully you'll be able to educate him more and help him come through whatever transition he's going to be going through. So that's important.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah, but it's nothing to be ashamed of.
No, definitely not.
It's
if
something
anything,
that
that's
happens,
and
people have to know. And even what's going on right now with the Ebola, and I think that's why that young man came in here from Africa and didn't realize that he had, or if he knew he had been exposed, he was afraid to share that with.
Yeah.
So it's not, if you don't share that, then what are you going to do?
Exactly. Without sharing, you won't reduce stigma. So
exactly.
As long as there's stigma, there's always going to be denial.
Exactly. Exactly. So it's important to definitely
talk about
people,
it.
and make people aware that it's okay. Let's do something now. So that's important, definitely. So I appreciate you coming out as one of our friends, and we're gonna go next to your cousin.
My cousin.
Hey.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Good. So we know about your passion, but I know that you working in the health field, you've been around a whole lot too. So that's why I said, well, come on out, because right now you're going through it with your Ebola.
Ebola out. That's all I can say.
Oh my gosh, because where we have been working out of, our hospital has been designated as one of the primary hospitals that will be taking in the Ebola patients if they were to come out here. So
No, all Ebola patients of Nassau County and the border of Queens.
Okay.
And then eventually, right now it's for the Ebola scare. Eventually it'll be turned into an infectious disease unit.
Okay.
So
State of the art, I heard.
State of the art.
Okay. And it's
In 3 days.
Oh, in 3 days. Well, I know with you being involved, it will be very successful. So that's a good thing. I know it's a little challenging, but
We'll get through it.
Yeah, you'll get through it. Now I know we have body mechanic over there. Yeah. Well, I'm not sure, but welcome.
Welcome, thank you.
And if you want to share a little something, you're welcome to share.
Possibly after y'all talk about, what you're going to talk about, then we can talk about what happens on the other side as far as what they can do to help with nutrition and that can also help them.
Definitely.
Keep the immune system strong.
Exactly. And hi, Miss Dita.
Hello, Dee.
How you doing?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
Excellent.
Beautiful.
So,
beautiful.
welcome again.
Thank you.
She's been hanging out with us for the last couple of weeks. So, doing her thing. So it's all good, very good. We've been trying to do this education. Like last week we talked about, what did we talk about last week? Theater, do you remember?
I remember the week before was cancer.
We talked about
and
hypertension last
and then
week.
hypertension.
Yes, hypertension and kidney disease. And I feel that is so big in our community. So a lot of things going on with hypertension and community, in our community, because I know myself. But with HIV, when it first came out, it was kind of like, wow. It just hit everybody by surprise. And we really didn't know where it came from. So all of a sudden it was like here, and then they realized it was actually in Africa for so many years, probably since the early 1900s or what have you. And even probably 1846, yeah.
1920.
Yeah, but I think it was actually, I saw something about 1866 or something like that. And the fact that it was carried as a simian virus, and then it started to mutate or what have you, and just went into, or it was in monkeys or something, and then SIV, right? And then the HIV also was there, but it didn't affect the monkeys. So then all of a sudden, it started.
Information.
Okay. Oh, well. We don't really know where it came from, but
there are a lot of different theories,
Yeah.
and I respect them all.
Yeah.
And I just try to tell people not to get caught up in the Kool-Aid trying to figure out the flavor,
Right.
but to know that it's here and to protect yourself.
And that's it. And we're going to talk about it when we come back. So we'll be right back. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Dr. Tom Dow. We have a multidisciplinary practice in Melville and Ronkonkoma, New York, and we treat patients with many, many different conditions, from newborns through geriatric patients with numerous different techniques. There's a technique and a type of treatment for every class of patient. We have them all here. Here's my son Thomas, also a doctor of chiropractic, working on one of our patients' cervical spine. This patient has had chronic neck pain for many, many, many years, has been to a multitude of different practitioners with little or no response. And with our specialized techniques, she has improved tremendously and continues to improve on a daily basis. We have two practices, one in Melville and one in Ronkonkoma, New York. We are a multidiscipline chiropractic office. What that means is we have chiropractors, massage therapists, acupuncturists, psychologists, all working as a team and a network of outside professionals such as orthopedists and neurologists that we work hand in hand with to help determine what your injuries are and the best way to treat your injuries. I have the great pleasure of having my son in practice with me. We work hand in hand, father and son, to give our patients the best care possible, and a staff which is loving, caring, and you'll never have to wait at all in our office for service. Many times patients come into our office and they have what's called a soft tissue injury. Soft tissue injuries are like scars inside your body. If you've ever been cut on the outside of your body, you get a scar. The same thing happens inside of your body to your muscles and ligaments. So our job is to determine where those are, stretch the muscles, adjust the vertebra back into their correct position, and then refortify the normal structure with exercise. That's what we do best, and I hope someday you'll come see us at one of our two offices. Thank you.
Hi, welcome back to Passion for Life with Dee and Friends, and I'm Dee.
And my name is Chella from Body Shop TV, just standing in the gap.
Okay. So we've been off air and talking, and we get a little intense when we do that.
Dee, I have a question that bothers me for you and your friends. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about the level of awareness right now in 2014 in regards to HIV/AIDS? I mean, you know, we're in October. We see pink ribbons everywhere we go. We see pink bagels. We see football players wearing pink. But when was the last time you saw a red ribbon?
No, you're right. And that's
haven't.
Yeah.
In a very long time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I've had several people that was close to me that has succumbed to that big situation with a little name. Yeah. You know, and you don't really hear about it. It's like it's washed or gone away.
I recently asked someone the same question, and she responded by saying, well, didn't it go away? Didn't they find a cure? And that was just so sad.
Oh, my gosh. You know, and that's why we're doing it. Okay, and that's the reason why. And I know, what is it? They give us, AIDS a day.
Right.
Right? One
December
day
1st.
in December 1st.
World AIDS Day.
So we'll do it again.
World AIDS Day.
World AIDS Day. And we're going to do it again, you know, because guess what? It deserves at least a couple of days. Because people are still not aware of what's going on. Recently, a friend of mine had told me that, you know, they don't realize you can't use condoms that are not permeable. You know, it's like all these, you have to use a latex or some type of synthetic non-permeable condom. And a lot of people are still not educated with that type of thing. And people don't realize, you know, like certain precautions, you know, that you really can't do. You know, I was reading and I'm like, they really tell you you should ask questions, you know, and before you partake into I remember when before you partake into a sexual relationship with anybody, you know, I know with myself, I went to the clinic and got tested with, you know, my significant other, you know, back in the day. But you do what you got to do, you know. You're supposed to be very much aware, you know.
But just remember, Dee, that when you come out with that HIV result of being negative, that's only your status 3 months prior to you taking that test.
Right.
So what does your partner do? Or what has your partner done in those last 3 months?
Right.
People tell you what they want you to hear.
Right. This is true. What did you think?
Well, when you go out and when you do counseling, right, you go to the different places.
Yeah, we go to different areas. What I'm going to be focused on is more so the men who have sex with men community. So more particularly men who have sex with men of color. So we're targeting a certain population. We're mostly targeting Black, Latinos, and Asian Americans. So, I mean, a lot of the times what I used to do, and I think what I will be doing again, is we used to do outreach on the hookup apps, so like Grindr, Jack, Scruff, and stuff like that. So I would just have a profile, have my face picture up, and I say, hey, if you want to get free HIV testing, hit me up. And so what I'm noticing is that a lot of younger kids, not necessarily kids, but younger adults, I'd say from 18 through 34, which is also one of the biggest increases in HIV infections right now. But they're not educated about it anymore because they weren't alive during when the epidemic happened and stuff like that. And so a lot of them just think it's a thing of the past. And we've marketed so much that HIV is a chronic disease, and it is a chronic disease. We have a bunch of medications that can help handle and control the virus. But the fact of the matter is that even though you can maintain the virus, it's still going to be with you the rest of your life. Yeah. And I just think it's a lack of education about the virus and how it's transmitted.
Exactly. And that's why we're here. You have to educate, you know.
Not even to mention a lot of the reasons why we do outreach on these apps is because it's to reach out to certain communities that wouldn't necessarily benefit from these services. So men who are in the closet or on the DL or don't necessarily identify as gay or bisexual and identify as straight but have sex with men. Right. So a lot of the times we do get a lot of people who are closeted or identify as straight and just like to have sex with men. And it's just a lack of education and communication with their sexual partners about what's going on.
Right.
There's a very high percentage of men of color that have sex with men that don't identify themselves as being gay, and they're involved in active heterosexual relationships.
Yes, precisely. And that's another thing, is that a majority of the infections are men of color. So it's so disproportionate and disparate because you're seeing this huge influx of men who have sex with men of color in comparison to their Caucasian counterparts. Like, the numbers are skyrocketing, and we don't understand why. And I also think that's a cultural bias because of being Black and Latino. You don't talk about sexual health. You don't talk about sex in general. You necessarily don't even talk about if you have sex with men, if you're a man. So it's just like, how do we permeate these things to get people to talk about this and reduce the stigma around it?
That's important. So, you know, make it so that it's not really a stigma. You know, so thing is, people have to realize, okay, just let's deal with it and let's move on and let's make sure it doesn't happen to the next person.
Yeah.
You know, so. And
so I know the new direction with HIV testing is, with HIV prevention in general, they're moving towards prevention with positive. So working with people who are newly diagnosed as HIV positive or are positive and fell out of care and getting them back into care. And so working with them on educating how they can protect themselves from necessarily getting another STI and from protecting their partners from transmitting the virus. And it's just so working with that population, and also, what am I trying to say? But yeah, it's just working prevention with positives and like getting people educated about what are the options if you have unprotected sex with a person who is HIV positive, or if you're in a relationship with someone who's HIV positive, what are precautions or necessarily steps that you have to take in order to protect you and your partner.
Right. Now, my understanding, okay, a lot of people's viral loads are non-detective. If they are non-detective, would they still be apt to be able to transmit the virus?
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay. Undetectable load just means they have less than 200. They have less than 200. No. Is it
200 or below?
Yeah, 200 below viral load. So the virus itself is multiplicated less in the bloodstream, and it's to a point where you can't detect it in a regular blood test. However, it just means that there's a minimal risk of transmitting the virus, but you can still transmit it.
Right.
And it's really important for someone who is positive to know their T-cell count, because once it does hit 200, then you are diagnosed with having AIDS.
Oh, really?
And then a lot more benefits become available to you.
So they still have not, like, given, well, they have restrictions on benefits, giving benefits or what have you?
Yeah, when you're HIV positive, there aren't that many benefits available as to if you have diagnosed with AIDS.
Why would that be?
Because then you have a disease, not a virus. And once your T cell goes to 200 or below and you're diagnosed with AIDS, you don't go back to HIV if it increases.
And when you say benefits, you mean like health insurance benefits? Stuff like that? What do you mean as far as benefits?
A number of benefits. Could be Medicaid, Medicare, what have you.
Housing, food.
Yes, referrals, transportation.
Not even to mention a lot of the people whose T-cell counts do go below 200, a lot of them become infected with opportunistic infection. So like, what is it, CAR-T? I can't.
PCP, which
PCP,
is
certain types of pneumonia, KP, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Once you get these diseases, you're technically defined by CDC with AIDS.
Right.
Your T cells can go back above 200, but it's always going to be an AIDS status because you will always have some sort of opportunistic infection along with it.
And do these people pass away from the AIDS, or do they pass away from the opportunistic infections?
The other infections, because the
Or
AIDS.
Most of the time,
Breaks down the immune system.
Yeah, it just breaks down the immune system. So like a person can die from a regular cold, but it would be termed as AIDS related, but it's not necessarily the AIDS that kills the person. It's some other infection or something else that kills them.
May I ask a question? So once it goes up, your T cells go up to 200. Are you now considered no longer AIDS, but back into HIV? I mean, for yourself, not for the government.
No, for yourself, not even for the person, because your T cells have gone below a certain amount. To get back up to that, you'd have to work really hard, but your immune system's already at that point deteriorated so much that even if it gets back up above 200, you're always still going to be trying to fight off some disease or something like that.
Okay. Well, recently I actually did hear a testimony of somebody that was drinking some natural products, and they ended up going from AIDS status all the way back to HIV status and non-detectable.
Actually, I've heard about that. There's this new fungus from somewhere, I forget. But I heard there's some fungus thing where they take these certain kinds of mushrooms from the certain part of the world.
Well, not just mushrooms, because I know this was a beverage called with
well,
noni.
They make it into some kind of tea or something like that.
Well, I know the noni. This was a testimony from noni. They had noni, which is a medicinal plant, an adaptogen. So it was very interesting that we heard that, and because I know you heard that too, right?
Of course, I've heard it several times, and I've spoken to the person directly, and they said that the doctors themselves took them off of the medication little by little by little, so now they just take a maintenance pill because that's what they want to keep them on, so that they, to be proactive behind it, but they no longer, it's not detectable in their system.
So it can happen, and that's because, if you're proactive and doing the right thing with your body and taking the right supplements and what have you. So it's important to be able to, have that knowledge and go out there and learn that there's other alternatives, So that's extremely important, So, because that's why I feel bad about Chella's brother, that he was in denial for such a long time, and if he because you see Magic Johnson, and a lot of you young folks don't even know who Magic Johnson is. But you do. Oh, okay.
You know, Magic is an exception.
Yeah.
He can afford Cameron.
This is true. This is true.
You know, Joe Blow on the street cannot.
This is true.
It's extremely expensive.
What is Cameron?
Cameron is sustaining him.
Oh, really? What is that? I don't know anything about Cameron.
It's a drug you get from Africa. There are underground places in New York City and other places around the country you can get it, but it's extremely expensive.
Really?
Yeah, it's on the black market. But it's but there's been cures for
But
AIDS.
you don't have the mic.
Oh. Yeah, but there's been cures for a while. It wasn't just, recently. Because how long have you known about Noni with helping with AIDS?
Well,
It's been a while, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
For a long time.
And the thing is, a lot of things that actually, like the word cure itself, those things are suppressed in the Western culture because they compete with pharmaceutical companies. That's really the deal. I mean, there were people curing AIDS in the late 70s.
Well, we don't say cure. We just say it has gone into remission or what have you, because technically, once you do have it, you really are still categorized to have it. So it is just in a latent state or a dormant state, right?
Either that or your body is completely suppressing because your immune response is very strong. It's like having a cold.
Right.
I mean, you don't stay with a cold all the time, but that is also a virus. It works the same way.
That's true.
I mean, you're the specialist.
Well, no, I'm not a specialist. I'm just have some specialists around me. But what we're going to have to do is go and break for a quick commercial. So we'll be right back. Okay.
Technical Worldwide Tattoo Supply is one of the largest suppliers in the world and your #1 resource for top quality, affordable tattoo and piercing supplies. Technical Worldwide Tattoo Supply is the #1 supplier of tattoo inks in the world with more than 200 products including Mom's Ink, Philadelphia Eddie's Traditional Inks, Paolini Sacred Color Inks, and more. Technical Worldwide Tattoo Supply, your one-stop shopping destination for great service, best prices, and top quality supplies. Coney Island Carlos vintage wines and premium spirits are undeniably distinctive, selected for their unique, memorable flavor. Coney Island Carlos vintage wines and premium spirits are delivered to you in beautifully designed bottles featuring limited edition artwork. Coney Island Carlos vintage wines and premium spirits are available at affordable prices in fine restaurants, bars, and liquor stores. Or check www.coneyislandcarlo.com for available.
I'm Tommy Marr. I'm down in St. Bart's having a good time. A lot of people at this time, they like to go have a little cocktail. But you know what I do? I'm going to watch Madhousetv.com. You got that right.
For professional motorcycle transport and towing, think Kickstart Fabrications Motorcycle Towing. Proudly serving all of Long Island, we feature expert handling and 24/7 service. So send a limo for your toy with Kickstart Fabrications Motorcycle Towing.
Welcome to Formula Auto Wash, where every day is a great day for a car wash. Open 7 days a week from 8 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Sundays 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Detailing packages for every budget, starting out at $29.99. 100% hand wash and detail centre. Horsehair and microfiber brushes and mitts. Proudly using Ecolab Blue Coral soaps and waxes. Formula Auto Wash has served the community for over 30 years. Senior discounts all day, every day. Ladies' Day Wednesday, $3 off any wash. Early bird discount Monday through Thursday till 9:30 a.m. Check out our website, formulaautowash.com.
Hi, welcome back to Passion for Life with Dee and Friends, and I'm Dee.
And my name is Chella from Body Shop TV, Standing in the Gap.
Oh, great. I'm so happy. This is really good, So now we really need to focus on, because not everybody, we were talking about education and what have you, so let's give a little history, So who wants to start?
History? You can.
You can start.
Age before beauty.
Said beauty before age.
Okay. It's very simple. You don't need a PhD to understand HIV. Okay. The body fluids that are transmitted are through blood, semen, vaginal fluids, and breast milk. The behaviors of unprotected sex. It doesn't matter how you do it or who you do it with. If it's unprotected, you put yourself at risk. So we're talking about anal sex, oral sex, vaginal sex, heterosexuality, homosexuality, bisexuality. If it's not protected, you're putting yourself at risk. Yeah. Sharing of needles, possibly through a blood transfusion, and from mother to child. Let me just explain really quick about blood transfusion. If you go to give blood tomorrow, they're going to ask you a series of questions. And the questions may be kind of personal. You may not want to answer them. So, for example, they may say, have you had unprotected sex in the last 3 months? And you may be shy, or if you've had any homosexual behaviors. You may not want to tell that person who you don't know your business. So you may lie about your behavior, knowing darn well that you put yourself at risk. So now they take your blood, and based on your questionnaire, you passed all the questions with flying colors, and then they give your blood to someone else. You put yourself at risk last month, 2 months ago. Your blood is infected, and now your blood's being transfused to someone else. That's the risk of a transfusion. They do test the blood. They do ask you questions. But again, we are not in control of someone being honest and not answering those questions.
This is true. And I actually remember when I had gone for I was going to donate, and the questions that they actually asked whether you had slept with somebody that was from a different country. And they actually rejected me because I did sleep with somebody that was from Africa, even though I was protected sex. But it was like they did not want me, you know, at all. Anybody from Haiti, that was back so many years ago. But, you know, they really screamed so much, you know, because of the type of people that you were associating with, you know. So it's you have to be honest, though. You really do have to be honest, and that's what we were talking
Well, I mean, one of those questions is a loaded question on that thing that I think needs to eventually come off.
Which one is that?
For men, it asks if you've slept with a man within the past year, and for women, the question of have you slept with a man that sleeps with men. I think that's very problematic and has a tinge of homophobia in it.
Why don't you talk about testing, the different types of testing?
So there's obviously the blood one, which is the most accurate. There's also the OraQuick rapid HIV testing, which is just an oral swab, but you wipe it on, like, you swab it on the gums of your mouth up and down, put it in the thing for 20 minutes. You can also buy them at your local, like, pharmacy, CVS, Walgreens, Duane Reade, whatever. But if you go through certain agencies on Long Island or to the hospital, or someone like me who will be doing HIV testing for free, obviously, if you go to certain nonprofits. But so if you go, you'll sit there and you'll counsel them for 20 minutes while the test's forming, ask them about their sexual behavior, their history with sexual partners and stuff like that, get a little demographic information, and then you go over the results. You tell them, all right, this is the OraQuick. It's only good for the 3-month period. If you've put yourself at risk within the past 3 months, we're going to have to do another test in another 3 months to make sure that this one was accurate. And my advice would be not to do the one, buy it from CVS, Walgreens, and do it by yourself, because a lot of times it gets confusing. I've seen people that are like, yeah, I did it, but I really don't understand what it means. So I would suggest going to somewhere with someone that can actually explain it to you and go over HIV 101 and stuff like that.
Now, I know that they have a lot of different Department of Health, because that's where I had gone way back when. And they're free also, and they're all in the city. So there's, like, I don't know how many now, but I know there was one in Jamaica, and I'm not sure how many are there in Queens, but I believe there's quite a few in all the boroughs. So they can always go online and check out.
You could always go online. I mean, one of the big agencies that I know of that does free HIV testing is LIAC. They do it for free. They also do hepatitis C and STI testing. They only test for, gonorrhea and chlamydia, because it's a urine sample. But I mean, you can call them if you don't feel comfortable doing that. You can call any Department of Health, Nassau or Suffolk. I'll be doing free HIV testing around Nassau and Queens. I mean, there's a bunch of Planned Parenthood, but it's on a sliding scale. It's not necessarily free. And I mean, it's hard for a lot of people too, especially on Long Island, because we do have a large undocumented community. So for those who are undocumented, sometimes they don't feel comfortable going to a place like Planned Parenthood or something like that. So it's good that they know about these other free services or alternatives that don't care about your status or whatever. And a lot of times at the Department of Health, it's hard to find someone that's bilingual, and there's so many disparities here on Long Island.
I just wanted to add to that testing piece that if you should use the OraSure, the Aura Quick test, and you test positive, they recommend that you retest with the blood because it's much more accurate. And there are two types of tests. It's anonymous and confidential. And if you should test positive through an anonymous test site, they want you to retest confidentially so that the New York State can have statistical data on you.
Well, that's also a huge thing, too, though, is that if the difference between anonymous and confidential testing is, so if you go to any of these nonprofit agencies, it's only going to be confidential testing because they will require some demographic from the person and stuff like that. Whereas if you want anonymous testing, it's going to usually cost you because you're going to have to go to the Department of Health, a hospital, or something like that. And the thing is, so if you go to one of these agencies that do confidential testing, if you test positive, they're going to do the confirmatory right there with the person. And then when they get those results back, they're going to help them link them to care if they choose they want care or not. With anonymous testing, if they test up positive during an anonymous test, you would have to switch that to a confidential test in order to get the care required. But a lot of people don't know the difference between that, and they don't know what's at stake between confidential and anonymous testing.
What is the difference? I'm like kind of like...
So with anonymous testing is like you go to the hospital or clinic, you get a number, and you get your blood drawn or whatever, you do the Aura Quick. Yeah, it's not linked to you. It's just linked to a number. They call you back. They go, here's your results, and that's it. Whereas confidential testing, you're going to sit down with somebody. They're going to take your name, your address, phone number to best contact you, like basic information to get in contact with you. This way, we have something to identify you with, to call you back and be like, all right, listen, you tested positive on this preliminary one. We have to do the confirmatory. We're going to send it to the lab. We're going to come, and when you come back, we can take it from there. If you want to get care, I can help you get care. If you want to fill out PNAP, Partner Notification Assistance Program, these people will help you tell your sexual partners that you've been infected, or you can have them tell them for you. They would call your partners and be like, hey, you've been exposed to the HIV virus, you should probably get tested, but by law they cannot divulge any of your information.
Is that voluntary, the PNAP?
PNAP is voluntary. It is not mandatory. PNAP is not mandatory, especially so a lot of times for people who have been victims of domestic violence and stuff like that, who have received the virus from their partners and stuff. If they're in a domestic violence situation, they can tell PNAP, all right, I've been with this person, but I'm afraid that they will harm me if they find out. Can you please wait for however amount of time until I get myself together? So they'll wait time for you to move or whatever. So like say 1 month down, they call you back and be like, hey, are you still worried about this person? Blah, blah, blah. They're like, yeah, I'm still worried. I haven't moved. I don't have all my stuff together. So as long as you keep telling them that you're afraid because you not have been able to move out or find a new place, cut ties with them, they will make sure that you're safe because at the end of the day, it's their safety they're worried about.
Nice. And at these places, is there a social worker to help you? Like say if someone goes, they're positive, is there a licensed social worker there or someone there that's licensed to guide them through the whole process?
Well, I mean, there's a bunch of different outcomes. So someone like me who would do HIV testing and counseling, I would do the counseling with you right there. For the preliminary, I would go over the procedure with you, do the confirmatory. I would say, listen, it's going to take about anywhere between 1 to 2 weeks to get the results back. If you have any questions, call me. I can help you. Or right then and there at the preliminary, I'll ask them, do you want to go see somebody? I can call my job, find the nearest licensed social worker, or find the nearest psychologist, and we can get you. I can call them while they're there and get them an appointment as soon as possible so they can start talking about this and processing everything.
Yeah, you know, I agree with you. There should be someone licensed that knows how to deal with a positive diagnosis. Because when I gave my first positive, it was in the jail. And we're taught to tell them their diagnosis before their butt hits the chair. And so I said, your test results were positive. And he hit the seat. And from that point on, they don't hear what else you're saying. You know, they begin to, they're not in the moment. They begin to just think of all kinds of stuff. And it's really important to have someone who's trained. You know, we're just counselors. We're just trained how to give the diagnosis and give information surrounding the virus, but not to deal with those real emotions.
I mean, it's hard delivering your first positive. No one's ever ready for it. First positive is always the worst. My first positive, I I didn't know what to say. I was in shock myself. And what happened was, so for the OraQuick test, the rapid ones, you have to make sure that you're performing the test within a certain temperature. So the first time it came out, the line was still pink, so it was invalid. I was like, oh, I have to do it again. And this time it came out, I was like, oh boy, what am I? And the thing is, you have to, as soon as you see that line, you have to keep a straight face. Like, you have to stay grounded, because if you lose it, they're going to lose it.
Yeah.
So it's rough.
So the thing is, okay, if you get infected, is there any signs that when you get it, you know, do you have like a respiratory infection or anything that might indicate that you might have something going on?
It's called the acute infection period, which happens between 4 and 12 weeks, which is why we suggest you always get tested every 3 months. So within the first 4 to 12 weeks, you'll feel flu symptoms, cold, sniffles, stuff like that. But you also have to remember there are a lot of things that can cause flu-like symptoms, sniffles, cold, sneezing, and stuff like that. So what we tell everybody is, like, not to think, if these are symptoms that you're showing, yeah, get an HIV test. If you've, within the past 4 to 12 weeks, you've had any kind of unprotected sex, yes, get an HIV test. But you have to remember a change of seasons and stuff like that. Like, there's so many other things that can present flu-like symptoms.
And everybody's different. We all have different immune systems. So someone who's really healthy, like the body mechanic, he could live forever with being asymptomatic, without symptoms. Everyone's different. But someone who's already compromised with another illness will begin to have opportunistic infections much sooner than someone else.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of scary. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back.
Hi, my name is Dr. Tom Dow. We have a multidisciplinary practice in Melville and Ronkonkoma, New York, and we treat patients with many, many different conditions, from newborns through geriatric patients with numerous different techniques. There's a technique and a type of treatment for every class of patient. We have them all here. Here's my son Thomas, also a doctor of chiropractic, working on one of our patients' cervical spine. This patient has had chronic neck pain for many, many, many years, has been to a multitude of different practitioners with little or no response. And with our specialized techniques, she has improved tremendously and continues to improve on a daily basis. We have 2 practices, one in Melville and one in Ronkonkoma, New York. We are a multidiscipline chiropractic office. What that means is we have chiropractors, massage therapists, acupuncturists, psychologists, all working as a team and a network of outside professionals such as orthopedists and neurologists that we work hand in hand with to help determine what your injuries are and the best way to treat your injuries. I have the great pleasure of having my son in practice with me. We work hand in hand, father and son, to give our patients the best care possible, and a staff which is loving, caring, and you'll never have to wait at all in our office for service. Many times patients come into our office and they have what's called a soft tissue injury. Soft tissue injuries are like scars inside your body. If you've ever been cut on the outside of your body, you get a scar. This thing happens inside of your body to your muscles and ligaments. So our job is to determine where those are, stretch the muscles, adjust the vertebra back into their correct position, and then refortify the normal structure with exercise. That's what we do best, and I hope someday you'll come see us at one of our 2 offices. Thank you.
Welcome back to Passion for Life with Dee and Friends, and I'm Dee.
And my name is Chella, just holding it down with Dee.
Hey, we're doing it, and I think we're getting a whole lot of information out here.
Absolutely.
And that's really, really cool. So, hey, where are we going from here right now?
Wherever you want to go. When you move, I move.
Whoa.
Just like that.
Okay. Just like that. Let's just do our thing here. Well, I don't even think we're going to be able to talk about anything else but HIV right now, because we were going to talk about a little bit with the Ebola because there's so much going on. And it actually kind of interrelates to each other because it's all about education. It's all about awareness. It's all about being straight and understanding and getting preventive as soon as possible. Because I know basically with the Ebola, it's deadly, right away. It's more acute. But in terms of you can live, you can survive it. 50% have survived the virus. So it's not like it's a death sentence.
Well, if you catch Ebola soon enough in stage 1,
exactly,
you can treat with fluids, anything, and they'll get better.
Right.
But when you get to stage 2, when you do the projectile vomiting, they're not going to do anything. You're going to die.
Yeah. Okay.
Grab the mic.
All right, so let me understand this. When you initially get caught with the virus can be treated with what?
Fluids. It's not really something that you can treat with antibiotics or anything like that. So you really have to treat yourself in terms of fluids, and it's like just hydration. And then, of course, our natural stuff, you can probably use that too, in terms of keeping certain things at bay. That's why I love what I do is by using natural supplements that actually help you keep at bay, certain viruses and what have you. That's why I don't have to take no flu shot. I don't take no flu shot. Okay.
So you wear the mask at work?
Neither do I.
That sounds...
I don't deal with it.
Right.
Listen,
I have to.
That's the
I was told
regulation.
I was
That's
told
right.
it was the shot or the mask, so I
That's
took the
right.
shot.
No, I'll wear a
And last
mask.
year, we made Dee wear her mask.
I got sick, okay?
That's because you didn't get no shot.
No, but it wasn't that. It wasn't that. But the thing is, I didn't have the flu. I went and got tested. It wasn't flu. I just got bronchitis. I was, my husband probably had the flu, and he gave me something, and I couldn't combat it at that point. But the thing is, because I had certain supplements, it didn't
progress.
Yes, into something worse. And that's what it is. It's really about preventive.
And your immune system.
It's based on what I'm hearing here. It's based on immune system. That's what's interesting about viruses. What viruses will do, they will take out the weak. Right. So if most people are dehydrated, so when you say something as simple as fluids and getting minerals in your body, if you do that in general, you won't have a problem with most of those illnesses out there. So we're talking about. We should be talking about teaching people about how to supercharge their immune response.
Right.
Yeah.
Then we don't have to have a lot of these conversations. I mean,
but it's not
the
just
flu,
that either. It's also every body's different.
Well, no, most bodies work very similar, and I'm not like saying no to
the mechanics are similar, but everybody else's response. Like my response is something that's totally going to be different from yours, from hers, from hers, from hers. It's not necessarily like you can do all the preventative stuff, but whatever your genetic makeup is made to do, that's what your genetic makeup's going to do.
Well, all makeups are designed to protect the body from foreign invaders. That works the same with everyone.
Yes.
Now, the level, how many troops you have to fight off these viruses will vary based on what you eat, stress level, all of those things. And those are the things that we're not talking about at all. Because when you do that, like I'm around people, I work with people with all types of problems. I travel a lot. I'm one that people say after they've flown, they always get sick because there's so many sick people on there. A lot of them are dehydrated. They're drinking alcohol. So they don't have any defenses at all. I never, ever get sick on the plane.
Well, I used to. I have to say, I used to get sick.
But you're healthier.
I have not gotten sick
That's what I mean.
in years since I've been using certain supplements.
Right.
So it's like taking certain things so to be proactive. You have to really be proactive with your body.
But I mean, like, if we were to take the same supplements, we might react differently to certain things.
Yeah, but then you have to also take a lot of other things. You have to look at your foods. You really do have to look at what you are putting in on a natural, how you cook your foods. There's a lot of different things that will keep, and what kind of drugs you're putting in your body, because all these things suppress and react, make your body do an immune reaction, which is not healthy. Sometimes, because a lot of things are because your immune system has gone through something, or it's trying to work.
It's taxed.
It's trying to work to get to a point so that it doesn't need to, because you're putting certain things in your body that it doesn't want to recognize, and now all of a sudden, now your body's trying to fight off something that's foreign, and it didn't need to do that, So there's so much.
Well,
and this hour is almost over again.
But I just want to make 1 minute.
Got to wrap it up.
We got to wrap it up. So what I want to do is defer to Chella.
I just want to share that I think it's so important that people become aware of the realities of HIV. It has not gone anywhere. It's still here. People can still become infected if they put themselves at risk. And also, if you should ever meet someone that is infected with the virus, not to treat them like they have leprosy, but to embrace them, because 50% of their recovery is the support that they get from us.
The emotional aspect.
Yeah. It's important to, as I said, don't alienate anybody because they have a disease. You have to let's work with each other so that we can prevent it to happen from somebody else. And that's important.
But it's hard for people not to think that way, because when you don't know all the intricacies about it, that's where the fear is, and that's what creates a separation. That's what makes it an infective disease, because the person lives in fear, and that exacerbates their current condition, and then people separate themselves. And then the media spreads that. It's exactly how it works.
Well, thank you for inviting me to be your guest host.
Well, thank you for coming out. I'm just so happy that I had all of my friends out here today sharing this important information, and hopefully we'll have to do it again, because guess what? We still have more, so much more.
You need a 2-hour show, Dee.
Yeah, I do. I know. Well, I need sponsors. I need money. So what I want to do is really do this again. And I don't know when, but it's going to be soon. So I need as many people to come out and share and call us, Facebook us. We're Passion for Life with Dee and Friends. And, call me, 917-579-5221. Email us at Passion for Life with Dee and Friends. And you could call the station if you want some information, you missed something. And, hey, it's all good. So, good night, and we'll be back next week. Passion for Life with Dee and Friends.
Very good.